All right, guys, welcome. I'm glad that you're here. If you're someone who is seeking uncommon results, this podcast is for you. Success, happiness, and wisdom. What do these words mean to you? I think we can all agree that we'll probably all have slightly different definitions of each. In these podcasts, I get to dive deeply into conversations with some amazing innovators, influencers, and trendsetters that have had different versions of how they define the terms, yet have come out on the other side with amazing, uncommon results. At some point in their lives, they have decided to unshackle themselves from the norm and go beyond all boundaries. Well, again, welcome to Beyond All Boundaries. I got a great guest today, Danny Johnson. Danny, thanks for being here. Really appreciate that you're taking the time to be here. Danny is the host of a popular Flipping Junkie podcast. He also has a blog. He's also created a couple different softwares, Flip Pilot and Lead Deal Management Pipeline software. And Danny's, I love the junkie part of the podcast, right? So if you're addicted to real estate, right, that's what you want to tune into and listen to. So Danny, again, thanks for being here and welcome.
Awesome. Thanks, John. I'm glad that you asked me to be on the show.
So why don't you do a little better job of introducing, kind of your software and your podcast, because I think people could get a lot of value from that as well.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, if you want, I could share my story into getting, because I didn't have it. I wasn't, always planning to be in business, be an entrepreneur. It just kind of happened. So you want me to share the story for?
Absolutely. Yep.
Cool.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I grew up San Antonio, Texas. My father, a lot of when I was young would try different things. He was an entrepreneur. He wasn't succeeding in any of them. Like we had to move every year. I think I went to a different elementary school every year of my elementary school. And we moved a lot. We were, renting, but he kept trying. That was just in him, right? Because he didn't have an education. So it was kind of, hard for him to, so if, I don't know, it was interesting. And maybe that's where I got that spark from, that desire to be that way. But I was thinking, man, I don't want to live a life that's so up in the air like that and concerned about money all the time, how the money seemed to be always the problem, right? And so I it's like, whatever I can do, I'm getting to college, I'm getting a degree, I'm having a stable life, right? So I went for a computer science degree, which, that I graduated college in 2000, right as the big bubble, for internet, the big internet boom, all that stuff that was going on, all the startups. It was an exciting time. And so I was all about software and doing that. But as soon as I got out of college, I went and I was working at a defense contractor here in San Antonio, and I was working in this room that was like a vault. I needed a secret clearance, and I was thinking super exciting stuff, right? What is this crazy stuff? I'm going to be like programming for missiles and stuff, but it wasn't like that. It was very boring work, really. And in a room with no windows, all artificial light. And I worked with great people, but, one example of what I was experiencing there is, they were listening to the Proclaimers. You remember that song, I Would Walk 5,000 Miles?
Yeah, absolutely.
I liked that song at first, but after the 2000th time of hearing that, playing on loop, that whole CD on loop, I just lost my mind and I couldn't stand it anymore. But during that time and having that CD and that song drive me nuts, at the same time, my father was actually getting into real estate investing. He was starting to buy houses. And, when I was young, one of the things that my dad did for a time was he was a contractor, actually for a long time. This is one of the things he did for a longer time than most other things. And that was as a contractor. And part of that time, he was a contractor for a real estate investor. So a guy flipping houses and investing in real estate. And so, when we got older, he had gone to one of the guys he was working for and said, hey, do you mind teaching me how you do what you do? And he did, and kind of gave back, and it helped my father do that. And so my father was all of a sudden finding success where he hadn't found it so much before in his life. And he just was loving it and having a blast, telling me about all these deals he was doing. And it just sounded so exciting because it was like, I get to drive across town. I look at this house and I made this offer and the lady laughed in my face, but I didn't care, and because I got the next one and all this kind of stuff, it just seemed like so much fun. And I was thinking, man, I want to do that same thing. I don't want to be sitting in this office. I want to be out there and living life and, just like calling the shots and not having it just be something where I'm going and trading all of my time for money, right? And
Right.
hoping that I get a raise every year and trying to do all those things. It's just like more of, I want to be able to just, be on my own and see what I can do. And so I started trying to do that as well and got into the business, right? And so he didn't show me the step-by-step. It was more of, you go learn what you can, you get a course, you do whatever, and when you have questions, you ask me, but don't ask me to kind of tell you the step-by-step. He's not going to tell me what to do or hold my hand or do the deals for me, which is great because I don't know that I would have done it
Right.
had he done that for me. And so we got in the business. I was part-time for 3 years because I was so scared to death of losing that secure monthly paycheck.
Yes.
But I was losing money.
Yeah.
We just talked about opportunity cost and when I interviewed you on the Flippin' Junkie podcast. And but I was losing money by still being at this job because I wasn't doing as many deals as I could have done. One of those deals, actually probably about 2 of them, because I was a software developer, but 2 of them, were typically paying as much as what I was making all year.
That's something.
Yeah, we were doing, I think, maybe 8 to 10 or 12 at that point, even, per year of the houses. And so luckily I was being kind of a slacker at work and they'd let me go. That was what I needed. They let me go. So I was like, oh, this is awesome. Finally, I don't have to, they let me go. So there's no choice here. And, my manager was telling me, but I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to keep you on. And I said, don't, please don't. I appreciate that, but don't.
So did you already have your mind made up, Danny, kind of at that point in time that you wanted the out, you were just kind of waiting for the, I guess the green light, so to speak?
Yeah. And at the time, I don't know that I really understood what was going on, but I think it's based on how I grew up, right? Where I saw, this, where it wasn't a steady paycheck, an education, the usual way we're taught to have security in life,
right?
That progression. And so I think there was a lot of that going on subconsciously, right? And so I needed that to happen and to let go of the fear that it was all going to blow up on me if I did. Mm-hmm. And thankfully it didn't, but I appreciate that it was part-time for a long time though, because when I went full-time, I kind of didn't know what to do with myself with all the time I had.
Interesting.
Yeah, because, I had learned to be able to do things with the smaller amount of time. So I got efficient, right? I did the 80-20 thing where 20% of what I was doing was producing 80% of the results.
Right.
So when I started doing the other 80%, I was like, oh man, this is like a lot of work for nothing. Like, this is, for not much results. So it was cool because it taught me that, right? Like it taught me how, and then I could use that time to find other things that are efficient that I could do. But after getting that going and being successful in the house business for a while, I had been developing software for myself to help keep track of all the leads and things that I was doing in my business, and even had built up a website and was getting most of my leads through that. And, I was buying directly from motivated sellers. So I was doing marketing, the We Buy Houses, variety of marketing directly to people looking to sell a house, the unconventional way. They just wanted to get cash and be out of it. They didn't want to list with an agent and all that kind of stuff. And so I was doing great, and we went on vacation. We had a 3-week vacation where the family drove from San Diego up to Portland and Seattle. And in that trip, we went to an Air and Space Museum in McMinnville, Oregon. And they had the Spruce Goose, which is the big flying boat that Howard Hughes built way back in World War II. This giant beast of a flying, of an airplane, but it was made of wood because of the metal shortage for the war. And so they had it there. And while I was there, I told my then wife that, when I get back to Texas, I'm going to get my pilot's license. I'm going to go and do that. And so I did what I said. I got back and I started taking lessons, but it overtook me. Like that was all I could think about. Like I was just like all about flying. So my business, I wasn't so much of a business person. I didn't have the education for business background. It was still just really me and my then wife doing everything, right? We had contractors that did the fix up. We had an agent
Right.
that sold the properties, but we still had to do all the marketing, the going to appointments to make offers on houses, put them under contract, all that kind of stuff. And so while I'm spending several months getting my pilot's license, the business is starting to suffer because what I found was the marketing that I was doing, the results that I was seeing on a day-to-day basis of leads coming in, things like that, were the results of what I'd done maybe about 3 months before.
Oh, okay.
Typically, like on
Right.
average, that's
The
kind of how
the
it's playing
momentum,
out.
right? Like the momentum of, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, it compounds, right? Your
right,
marketing compounds everything, and it kind of still, even if you stop, it'll still keep going for a while. And that's what was
right.
happening. I was thinking, well, it's still good. I'm still getting leads and everything. But after the 3 months, and I got my license, I found I didn't have much happening, and I needed to get back going, and I needed motivation. So I apologize if this is too long of an answer.
No, this is great. No, but this is great stuff because if you think about it, right? Like I think your story is so interesting because a lot of times, right, people want to have that entrepreneur mindset or they want to do that, but they just won't let themselves go of the consistent, the security, right?
Right.
And so I think, for a lot of viewers out there, I mean, I can't tell you how many people, would like to do something, but they can't get over that security, right? And so no, this is great. So keep going.
Yeah. Do it part-time for a long time and keep the security while you get to the place where you feel to where you can get fired at least, right? Um, you don't have to quit and make that decision like I didn't have to. But so I needed to get the business going, and I kind of, I needed a way to be held accountable, to be motivated. But I also knew that I wanted to promote software eventually. And so I was thinking, well, I could have all this stuff work together. I could help people, but also build up this, authority in the industry so that the software, I have some authority whenever I release the software. And so I started the Flipping Junkie blog. And, what I did was I was looking at what other blogs out there were doing. And basically you had two camps. You had the one camp that was kind of saying, here's the house I'm fixing up, sort of like the HGTV fix and flip
Fix
kind
and
of stuff.
flip. Yeah.
They're just basically showing you what they're doing to the house, right? That you don't know
Right.
anything about how you got the deal, what the numbers are. Sometimes you do, but it's just basic
Right.
numbers. And you don't know the rest of the business, right?
Mhm.
It's all about the before and after, and that's it. The other side, the other camp was people showing you the steps 1, 2, 3 to kind of doing it, but we're never showing they're actually doing the deals.
Mm.
And I said, well, none of this is really helpful for somebody that wants to see, well, if I do 1, 2, 3, what's going to happen? Or what does it take to do those 1, 2, 3, and what's the result? How does it actually play out? And so
Right.
what I did was I said, okay, well, I'm gonna just document, right? Because this is gonna hold me accountable. I'm now telling people I'm doing this. Come and watch me do this.
Mhm.
And I had to do it, right? So it helped me motivate me to really get back and get things cranking again. And so I showed everybody for 34 whole weeks. I showed every single week, here's what marketing I did, the exact marketing that I did. I even went so far as to document every call that I got and said they wanted to sell because of this. They were asking this much, they owed this much, this is what it was worth. This is how I figured out how it was worth that much. And I either went to see it or I didn't. And here's why I didn't go to see it, because there was no way for me to make a deal out of it. And the ones I did go to see, I would document that and say, yeah, I needed this much repairs. And so I made an offer of this. And so over that 34 weeks, I documented basically the generating of over 400 motivated seller leads. I think it was over 500 actually.
Wow. And that you did that in the podcast and blog, both of
No,
them?
just on the blog.
Just on
So
the
I
blog.
didn't have a
Okay.
podcast. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
And so it's written out. It's still on there. It's kind of buried. I'm actually revamping Flipping Junkie right now. So hopefully within a week or two, it'll be a new one. But yeah, all those posts are on there. The deals that I did, I showed before and after pictures. I showed what my scope of work to do the fix up was. So you basically get to see what it's actually like in the life of, and that gained a lot of
Right.
traction. A lot of people appreciated seeing that. And the big takeaway there was how much of a numbers game it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, when I was getting started in this business, even myself, that first deal was really hard to do. It was hard to find that first deal, but I also had incorrect expectations. I would find a couple houses that needed work, and I would make an offer and I wouldn't get them accepted. And after 5 of those, I felt so dejected. I was like, I'll never get a deal.
Yeah.
I only made 5 freaking offers. Like, what the heck makes me think that, if it was that easy, everybody would be doing it, right? Like it would
Right.
be impossible to be able to get in.
Right.
And so I think showing that, because, and this is actually nowadays, like this was even a horrible, horrible ratio, but out of that 500 leads, I only did 11 deals that I showed.
Wow.
Which is horrible. I mean, that's greatly improved over the years, but it at least showed people that you're going to go through a lot of leads to get the
Right.
deals. Don't give up after not getting one after 5 leads.
Right. And I think, you mentioned something too that's important, is that, a lot of times we have these expectations of, like, to your point, like 5 deals, and I'm, this is not for me, right? Like when you look at somebody that's accomplished what you've accomplished, I mean, it's constant. It's the perseverance, and it's just, 500 leads to get 11 deals, right? That's going to take time, energy, and effort, and persistency and efficiency, right? And so, like, even though, like, you've probably stepped up your ratios, right, but still what you've learned for those 490 failures or 489 failures, right, makes you more efficient. And I don't think people, so I don't think people recognize that a lot of times. I mean, I think we all, like, say we recognize it, like we all, like, talk about it, but when you're in it, it's what you're telling it's that self-talk, right? Or the stories that we tell ourselves when we're actually in the grind. Like, this is crazy.
Which is kind of left out most of the time, right? When you're hearing it
Yeah.
from somebody else, the success, you're not hearing that battle that happened.
Right.
And so when you have your own battle, you're like, what the hell? It's not an understood thing that almost everybody that did it, probably everybody that did it, had those battles to go through. You just didn't hear about them.
And still are having those battles, right? I mean,
sure.
it's an ever growing, stretching. I mean, you can't be in your comfort zone and be successful, in my opinion, right? You got to live outside that comfort zone and live uncomfortably, like, forever, and it sucks, right?
Yeah.
But that's the only way that you grow and you get to those results that you've achieved. So when did you start the podcast part of it? So you were blogging all this out, right? And then what kind of transpired to say, I'm gonna start doing a podcast around this?
Yeah, I want to say real quick though, before I answer that, just remind me of, you ever listen to Jim Rohn?
Yes, I have.
Incredible. Anybody out there listening has never listened to Jim Rohn, get the audios of him. But he would always say, don't become a millionaire for the money.
Right.
Become a millionaire for the person you have to become to become a millionaire.
Right. Yep.
And that
You can
there's
do
so much
money.
truth in that.
Well, there is, and we can make money doing anything, right? And what are you really trying to accomplish, or what is your, like, I kind of come back to the Simon Sinek, the why part, right? Like, I think that really is critical around our why. And, why do we really do the things that we do? And I think a lot of times people, just kind of go through the motions and do things just because it's part of life. But when you can really stretch yourself and really dig deep and spend time identifying your why, right, personal and in business, it can really take you to leaps and bounds of what you've never thought possible. It's a challenge, though. It's painstaking, right?
Yeah.
It's not an easy exercise at all.
Yeah, especially if there's a lot of doubt, about, because then you question whether your why is really your why, but it's other reasons that are in there. But that's what I think this is all about, right?
Mm-hmm.
The growth and why it's painful and why it's hard is because it's challenging you to overcome the crap you got inside of you, from whatever, and I don't know, I've been through a lot in the last couple of years with the divorce and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of introspection, and it's helped me grow tremendously. I'm actually very grateful for it. At first I wasn't happy at all about it, but this led to a lot of clarity and basically awakening of, how I'm operating, how I'm living my life, and shines a lot of light on why the successes happened early on for me. And a lot of that was just seeing that, having the why and then going through those things and being scared to do all those things. Cause I was mostly an introvert, and like getting out there and, having people call me to make an offer on their house scared the hell out of me.
Mhm.
I didn't know crap about real estate. I didn't know, like, I was afraid to death they were going to ask me something and I looked like an idiot, but I still did it. And I did look like an idiot for the first couple calls and first couple appointments, but I learned from those and I knew, okay, well, that was painfully awkward. So next time I'm going to have the answer. Right. So,
Right. You're going to learn. You're not going to not know. It's not going to happen twice. Right.
right. So if we can get back past all those things, we can really, that's how we find the success. But as far as the podcast goes, that was, I'd been blogging for a while. I'd done 34 weeks. I'd been doing the post. And, honestly, I was burned out of the writing the posts. I kind of was running out of ideas. And, the podcast thing really intrigued me. It scared me getting out there. The first episodes that I did, I'm if you go back and listen to them, like you can tell I'm nervous. I'm super nervous most of the entire time. But again, it was another growth thing, and there was a calling in me to do it.
Yeah.
And so even though I was scared, I still wanted to, and I was going to go ahead and just put up with, being nervous and all that kind of stuff, and moving through it. And it just became a thing that I loved so much, because interviewing people like you, it gave me that opportunity to be able to do that, to be able to talk with you and, and other people, where a lot of times it would be something where I would pay you $500 to spend an hour with you.
Right.
But here I am getting to interview and ask questions I want to ask, for free, and you're wanting to do it, and that's incredible.
Right.
So that's been a lot of fun. There's some selfish reasons in there, but it's a benefit for everybody because it goes on to the podcast and other people get to hear that. So it was really just a way to keep putting content out to help promote software and to help people out in changing mediums. That's why I started the podcast.
Mm-hmm. And so tell me a little bit about, obviously being a software computer programmer, right? So the software was probably just second nature, but you saw some things that were happening and occurring. And so maybe just high level, kind of give an idea of, if people are wanting to get into the fix and flip in real estate, kind of just maybe high level or whatever you want to share with what that software can allow them to do, and kind of how that benefits, your audience and the people that you're coaching and training as well, Danny.
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing is the websites, right? Lead Propeller websites, the real estate investor websites. I had, developed mine and built mine myself. I learned SEO. I spent well over a year ranking my site and doing all that work.
Well,
the ins and outs, it fascinated me. So it didn't feel like work. I really did enjoy learning. Some of it was frustrating, but most of it was fun learning about all that stuff. But in the 34 weeks of posts where I was posting about, I was showing where all the leads were coming from, right? And so it didn't take a genius to see, hey, most of his stuff comes from his website, right? And they tend to be really good leads because the people already are aware of their problem and they're looking actively for somebody to solve it, right? Whereas where the other marketing a lot of people are doing is like direct mail. You're spraying and hoping that it hits some people that might want your service. And so it's an inbound, outbound sort of thing. Inbound being a website because they're already looking for you, they find you. Obviously, you can use the website on outbound marketing, but it was how I was getting most of my leads. And people were asking me, hey, I want a website too. Where can I get one? Right. And I was thinking at the time, well, I don't have time. I'm sorry, but I can't like build your website for you. And my time was worth more. I can't do that. And I don't have a team or anybody that can build this for you. But I was having a conversation with my friend Brandon Turner for Bigger Pockets, and he was saying, man, why doesn't anybody do that though? Why doesn't anybody have websites that they offer? And, it could be something like because this is before a lot of the Squarespace and the Wix and all that stuff.
Okay.
couldn't you build it in a way that had templates and stuff like that? And I said, oh man, yeah, I could. I could probably do that really quick. And so I spent 2 months building it out. I built out an editor and building out the first ones and the templates based on what I had already learned and doing it myself, and made it to where people, because I wanted it where people could sign up and have their website personalized, have all the content there, have their personal information spread throughout of it, and be able to change things that they want to change through an editor. And that way I could still go about my daily flipping and all that kind of stuff. And they could have a website that they could change, and I wouldn't have to, have to manually do stuff if somebody wanted something done. So it was a way to do it, right? To help people, but then also, make money, obviously, and all that kind of stuff. So we built those out, and, has just things in there like the text messages that we send out as soon as you get a lead, because with it's probably the same with most sales. If you're the first person to talk to that person, a lot of times, if they're trying to reach out to multiple people, that first person that has a conversation has a much higher chance of getting the deal.
Mm.
Right. So you have to know as soon as somebody did something on your website, you got to know about it so you can talk to that person right away.
Right.
Before they go to the next website and the next one. And so we built out things to make that happen, and some innovations for that.
And that's called Flip Plot or Flip
No,
Pilot.
that's Lead Propeller.
Lead Propeller. Okay, so Lead Propeller, and then Flip Pilot.
Flip Pilot. So that's once you get those leads,
Yeah.
what do you do with them? Right? Where do you put them?
Right.
Because after you, especially some of the terrible inefficiencies I was talking about with getting 500 leads but doing 11 deals.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining. I mean, I'm complaining a little bit because I know better now, but like those 11 deals, some of those were where I didn't even fix the house up, and I just sold the contract to another, or sold the house without fixing up to another investor for like 50 grand. I mean, there was a ton of money made from all those deals.
Right.
But the problem, what was missing then, is I was just worried about getting more and more leads.
Mm-hmm.
But what I wasn't doing was seeing how valuable those existing leads, where they told me no from my offer, still were. Because what I found, and what a lot of the other real estate investors will tell you that are doing a lot of deals, as many as like 60, 70% of the deals coming from follow-up, not that initial contact, initial offer. It's following up with them. And so when you're getting that many leads, you got to have something that's going to do that for you, because you're not going to keep up with it. It's just too much. Mm-hmm. And so that's basically what Flip Pilot is. The leads will come in automatically, and you can see. You ever use Trello or Pipedrive or anything like that?
Yeah, we use Trello. Yep, for sure.
It's an awesome card system where you got the lead. It's in this status right now. You drag it into the next one. All this automations can happen, and basically can do all the follow-up for you on autopilot if you didn't get the deal right away. And if they respond to the follow-ups and are interested in talking again, and then it becomes an active thing for you to look at. Mm-hmm. But until then, it's just out of mind, and it's just happening.
So do you spend more of your time right now with, you created this software, a couple of softwares, right? And again, it's Flip Pilot and then Lead Deal Management pipeline software. How many deals are you doing on the flipping part?
Yeah, the flipping side. So that's something I just started up again, because I actually did step away from the actively doing it for a couple years, actually probably 4 years maybe. Because I had built up a team for that. Mm-hmm. And my ex-wife had started running that flipping team, and I became focused just on the software.
Yeah.
And, went through a divorce, and I was looking at where most of our wealth was. And it was in some, the rentals and the notes, the real estate notes and things that we had done. And I was like, why did we stop doing that? And we did it for a long period, especially around 2008 to 2012, when it was, the real estate market is pretty soft. We did a lot of those kinds of things. And so I was like, man, I want to start doing this again. And I had lunch with my mentor in the house flipping business. And he asked me, so with all this going on, are you going to start doing the house stuff again? And I hadn't really thought about it much.
Yeah.
But it just, something inside of me was like screaming for it. Just like, yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun, And, and I found that I got into a place of making assumptions about people wanting the software, because I wasn't actively dealing with the day-to-day minutia of it. And so in me getting back into this business, the house buying business and the real estate investing. Moments like where I got a call and I had to say, okay, well, there's no way that's a deal. It's a lead in my system though. So I need to log in and I need to, mark it as, spam or something, or not a lead or whatever. I wish I could have just gotten a notification on my phone and checked what it was. So I wouldn't have to log, like things like that you don't realize unless you're doing it, right?
Right.
And so we've made all kinds of improvements based on that as I've gotten back into it. But to answer your question, I just finished up one that I rented out, and I've got two that we're working on right now that I'm going to flip. One of them, I'm looking, there's a spread of about 100K that's possible in this one to make. Typically, it doesn't work out that way. I'm hoping at least somewhere between about 60, 80. But I could make that much if it sells for as much as I think it might.
Wow.
And then we got another one probably going to be about like 50, 60K in that one.
So if someone wanted to get into fix and flips, right, what would be the one thing that you would give advice to or counsel on? There's probably many, right? But like one nugget advice would be for somebody that's kind of, trying to get into the fix and flip market, or just trying to get into real estate in general. What would be your coaching to anybody wanting to start that out?
One thing, huh?
Yeah, right. I know I made it tough, didn't I? I mean, you can get more than one if you want.
Yeah. Well, I think the big thing that that I've been, as I talked about becoming like awakening and being a little bit more aware these days, a little bit more mature in business and in personal life. But I think a lot of the things is the stuff that we tell ourselves. It's what we talked about before. It's like this head game stuff, like the assumptions that we can make. And I think that keeps so many people from finding success because they convince themselves out of it before they ever have a chance to. And so some of the common things that I hear from people are, my market's too competitive. My market's overpriced.
Right.
There's no deals here. This is all garbage. There's a deal everywhere. I don't care where it is. Some markets much more difficult, like California, where the price of the property is so high.
Right.
New York, but that's the exception, right? There's only so many places that are like that. All the rest of the areas, there's definitely ways to do it. And so I think it's not convincing yourself out of it, and seeing and understanding that could be more of your fears controlling you and keeping you in your comfort zone more than the reality of what's actually happening.
Right. That's awesome.
Because you can take the education, but if your fear is gonna keep you from actually implementing it, what good is any of it?
Right. If you just stay on the sidelines, I mean, you gotta play full out, don't you? I mean, you gotta just take the good with the bad. But if you just continue to play full out, things will happen eventually, right? So, well, great, man. Well, hey, I really appreciate you being on today.
Yeah.
If people want to get hold of you and listen to you on your podcast, why don't you give the name of the podcast again, Danny, so everybody can listen in and reach out to you too.
Sure. Yeah. It's the Flipping Junkie podcast. And that's Junkie is Junkie. For those addicted to real estate, it's not, I wasn't a junkie or anything. Not that there's anything, I'm not judging anybody, but just really super excited and addicted to real estate investing and the potential with that. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, typically in the Flipping Junkie Facebook group. So just look up Flipping Junkie group on Facebook and find me there.
Awesome, man. Well, again, I really appreciate you being on and enjoyed the time together. So thanks a lot.